Texas Congressman Chip Roy and Texas DPS spokesperson and Roy's guest to Trump's address, Lieutenant Chris Olivarez. Lieutenant Olivarez, I'd like to start with you because you've got the hands-on experience here. We saw the mess at the border the last 4 years. We saw people coming into this country illegally in the millions. We saw fentanyl crossing the border illegally. We saw the cartels taking advantage of the situation. And lo and behold, he's only been in office about 5 weeks, and he's pretty much shut that border down.
Oh, absolutely. Jackie, Jason, great to be with you this evening. And also, I just want to first say off, I'm very thankful for Congressman Roy for inviting me today to be at the presidential's address to Congress. It's a historic moment for me to be here to represent the state of Texas, represent the Texas Department of Public Safety, and also represent our governor in Texas as well. As you know, I've been on your show, numerous times, and we talked about the border situation the last 4 years and how Texas has been at the forefront. And if it wasn't for, Governor Abbott launching our operation in the last 4 years, there's no telling how much more damage we would continue to experience now that we're seeing. But going back to your question, it's been day and night. Come January 21st, we saw a significant decline in illegal border crossings where just right now, daily, we're averaging anywhere between 200 to 300 illegal border crossings across the entire southwest border. You look at last year when we're dealing with thousands that were coming across. So what's happening right now, we have strong leadership and also support. Congressman Roy has been a very strong advocate for Texas and what we're doing. And that's what matters right now is having that support. And because of that, we've been able to secure the border much more than it's been before.
Yeah, it's amazing, Congressman Roy, that, cooperation, working collaboratively with the local law enforcement, what that'll bring with you. But, boy, I would have thought Kamala Harris, the border czar, would be jumping up and down because obviously climate change has been solved. That was the root cause of what was bringing all these people across the border, and that must be what happened. What's the sea change and difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris?
Yeah, well, thanks, guys. First, it's great to have Chris here as my guest. I'm so proud of the work he's done and the DPS troopers across South Texas who have been standing in the breach when the federal government was MIA and leaving Texas and the rest of the country exposed. Greg Abbott led Operation Lone Star, got these guys down there, and they did the job. Now, thankfully, ICE and Border Patrol, to answer your question, have the full backing of the President of the United States, the Secretary of Homeland Security, and our mutual good friend, Tom Homan, who we were just visiting with about 30 minutes ago. The numbers are down to about 200 a day. That's about 6,000 a month. Keep in mind, under Biden, we had over 6,000 a day. We had as high as 10 to 11 to 12,000 a day. We're now down to 40-something gotaways. This is what happens when you enforce the law. Who knew? If you actually just enforce the law, you can get the numbers down. So now Congress needs to step up. We need to get some resources to Tom for more beds so they can have removals and repatriations, and then we can actually back the president what he's doing. But it's a new day in America with the president enforcing the law, and I hope he bigfoots Congress tonight in his speech and makes it clear Democrats left America stranded, and people like Laken Riley died because of it. People like Jocelyn Nungare died because of it. Her mom, Alexis, was my guest at the inauguration. Chris is my guest here because the border is so critical to Texas and this country.
Yeah, and one of the big issues tonight will be the border, the progress that's been made so far, but also how President Trump is going to continue to make sure that the border stays secure. So he's going to talk about the budget bill. He's going to talk about border funding. Right now, it's a little bit contentious about how he's going to get his agenda through, whether it's going to be two bills, whether it's going to be one bigger bill, a continuing resolution. We can get into all the details, but really when it comes to the border and the budget, your thoughts on what has to be in there?
Well, I was happy to work on either approach. I happen to favor the two-bill approach. I still do. We need money for the border, and we need it right now. Jason, you know how this place works. Yeah. We've now passed our bill out of the House. I was happy to work on that one. I think we got a good framework done. Credit to Jody Arrington and to working with the Speaker and our whole team. We got $2 trillion of spending restraint tied to $4.5 trillion of tax extension, but the money for the border. But here's the problem. We now have got to work that out with the Senate. We've got to actually go through the reconciliation process and identify the spending restraints. And to answer your question, I have to have the spending cuts or I'm not going to be able to move forward with that bill. And there's a bunch of my colleagues who feel that way. But we need the money for the border because the ICE guys and Homan and those guys, they need beds. So I wish we had done the two-bill approach. I still want to get them money ASAP. We could do it real quick. But I'll do whatever they want. I'll work on either approach. But we've got to deliver. The American people are tired of us not delivering. Congress needs to do that. I'm proud of what we did in the House. It cut spending, extends taxes, secures the border, modernizes the military. But now the work really begins, as you know, Jason, on how this place works.
Yeah, and it's a mess. But I'm glad you're there to help try to fix it. Lieutenant, I want to ask you, though, real quickly. The president's concerned that the Mexican government is not doing enough on the border with their federales and their troops and what they can do. Are you seeing any change there at the border on the Mexican side of the border?
Well, what I can tell you, we look back most recently, there was 29 cartel high-ranking members that were extradited to the United States. That is a great approach that really sends a message to Mexico and the cartels that the U.S. does mean business and that we are going to hold them accountable for their actions. But of course, we need to force Mexico to the negotiations as well to actually crack down, do their part to crack down on the cartels, use their military to crack down on the cartels. Because until then, we're going to continue seeing more drugs pour across that border. We're going to see more victims as a result of the cartel violence. So that's what we need to focus on right now. The designation is also a great step in the right direction, but also we need to do more at the federal level, but also getting Mexico to do their part as well.
Well, and if I might add, I would add that the designation of the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations was really important. That was one of the first bills I introduced in February of 2019. I'm so glad the president did that and worked with a lot of experts in Texas about why that's so important.
It is important. And Jackie, if I can jump in here, I want to follow up with Congressman Roy on just the one point. Reconciliation is one thing. But Speaker Johnson suggested that they were going to do a continuing resolution, which would be the existing spending. Let me get your reaction to these comments from the Speaker.
We are working hard to do our responsibility to keep the government open. Democrats have to help negotiate this, and they've, to this point, shown no interest in finding a reasonable solution for that. We're looking to pass a clean CR.
Congressman, are you going to support a clean CR that takes spending at current levels all the way through the end of September?
Well, it sounds like Mike needs to get some hot tea. He's losing his voice. But look, here's my view. Remember that our job is to appropriate. That means we put a cap on spending. But that doesn't mean the president has to spend all of that. It is a new day. We have the president in the Oval Office. We have Russ Vought at the Office of Management and Budget. We have Elon and Doge. We have all these folks who can now make good decisions about how the dollars are spent, and they're working through to get us the cuts. I favor a CR. I know that might sound surprising. I favor a CR provided it is clean, that it is a true freeze in spending, that any anomalies are for defense, and keep spending flat. Because we put in our budget with Jody Arrington, we put in our budget flat spending in 25 and 26, and it's a critical piece of getting our budget to work. So I favor it, provided that the executive branch is going to do their part to do rescissions, impoundment, constrain the spending, reprogram it, and then get to Congress the cuts we need to put in place for the FY26 appropriations. As you know, it's March now. We've got to get those done and in place by September 30th. So for me, this buys time for Doge, keeps the lights on for them to do their work, empowers Russ Vought and the president asks for it. I'm going to back it up, but we got to deliver. We got to deliver.
That's big news because this has to be done by March 14th.
Yeah.
Well, but also, doesn't a situation like that, doesn't it sort of leave everything open? Then do we just have the same conversation again in September, even though we're extended until that point? I mean, does it really resolve exactly what you want it to resolve?
Well, for me, what it would do is it would set the stage for what I tried to describe a minute ago, which is something different. Because with Russ over at OMB and Elon there, we can now see efforts to impound funding and to stop, using money the way that the past administrations have been doing it. They can restrain those dollars, identify bad spending. So, for example, USAID. Nobody thinks we should be spending $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. So let's line item that one and take it off the books. But they're still going through it. I want to give Doge time to identify all those, organize them, put it with our work we've done in the past, because we've done a lot of that, organize it and put that through the appropriations in July and jam the Democrats and make them have to deal with those bad expenditures and answer to the American people.
Congressman Chip Roy and Lieutenant Chris Olivarez, thank you. Thank you for your service, by the way, at the border. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Amen.